I'm a diamond drilling roughneck working nowhere near a town. When I get out, I'll scream and shout hell by the bar around. A diamond drilling roughneck working all year long. It's time to raise your glasses to the diamond driller song.
All right, we should be recording.
On
Do you
the
see it
air.
up in the corner there?
On the air, I see your partner.
Well, there we go. Now we're
Yep.
doing it.
We're doing her. So how you doing?
Not too bad.
How you
It's relaxing season over here, kind of.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I was laughing when you got up there. I could see like all the bits and filters in the background.
Oh yeah. Well, I had to put some. I had to do her someplace. Either that or looking out the window, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I guess to get started, I'm Shawn. I'm up in the Yukon right now, and then where are you right now, Brent?
I'm up in Flin, Manitoba. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, to really get started with it, I don't know. It probably makes more sense to like talk about what we're even trying to do here. Like,
Yeah, exactly. I think we'll just explain that we're right out, get the point across so that we're just trying to bring up old styles of diamond drilling and old stories and just get it out there a little more, because you know what I mean, as you don't hear too much about it. It's good to hear different perspective on things and drills and equipment and more knowledge, right, for some guys, right?
Yeah, I think we'll really like find our footing once we bring some people on, because every episode will be completely different. Like, I know we both listen to podcasts, so some of them turn into like a lot of the mining ones that I've been listening to. They're really good, but they're really serious as well. So I don't know. And I mean, that has its time and place, but my favorite podcasts are just people like joking around and telling stories and stuff.
Exactly. You want to have a good time. You don't,
Yeah.
You want to, exactly. Yeah.
I think finding, I don't know, like things that we can maybe like throughout the week or however often we do these, we'll just find like different topics to talk about. But I don't know. I think like bringing on old drillers and stuff, or just like any drillers, any helpers, like pump guys. I think down the road, like if we keep doing this and gain some traction, like bring even some geologists and stuff, where like maybe that gets a little more serious, but it'd be cool to keep it more into like the drilling part of it. So if a geologist is on, like it'd be cool to hear about projects and really what they're looking for and stuff, but it'd be cool to hear like their point of view from like how these projects.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, for sure. 100%.
Just to hear the other side of the story, because like I'm sure geologists have some pretty wild stories about drillers and whatnot.
I imagine they're all pretty wild. Yeah,
I would think so.
Yeah, they ain't going to church with them, that's for sure. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, I guess maybe we'll just like shoot some questions to each other, but I don't even remember if we talked about this when we first met, but like when did you start on the drills, and how'd you get going? Like who'd you work for, and how'd the beginning go for you?
I went out, Shawn. I went out one time when I was my dad's buddy. I went out when I was 16 years old. First time. I don't even think I had a social insurance number. And I went out and Point Store, Saskatchewan. I went out for 2 weeks and worked my bag off. I could barely lift a rod. Anyhow, payday came and he handed me a 5-star sleeping bag. So, right, that was my first time ever on a drill. And then I obviously said never went back till I turned 19. I think I went back and I got in with Bort Longyear and did some underground work, and then I've been at her since, surface. And I basically I kind of with rod and drilling there for quite some time. I did most of my career there and kind of bounced around.
That underground thing, like that was
I was at Bort. Yeah, that's where I started it. Just everything took off. Shawn was from there. I started really diamond drilling from there, right? Full time. And yeah, and then I went back to surface there and never went underground again.
Yeah. Do you miss that at all? Underground?
Underground, not one bit. I'd like
No?
to sit here and lie to you and say a little bit for the underground drillers, but not one bit. No.
Yeah. I've always heard that, like, I don't know, for years. I think I worked on the drills for like 15 years before I even went underground once. So I had a good idea what to expect, but I don't know, everybody I talk to, they're always like, oh yeah, the weather's always the same. And like,
Yeah, it's exactly sure. It has its perks. It's like, I mean, it's for some people, it just wasn't for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not a woman's job or nothing like that. It's just definitely hard work, but it's just, I don't know, I just like being outside, man, in the bush, right?
yeah, that's what I found going down there. Actually, was I really didn't mind it, but even after all these years of me working on the drills, it is something I wish I spent more time doing.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
because I don't think right now that I'm confident enough I could just go down there and like start running a job and everything. So
yeah.
but in like my position now, I wish I did have that. But that'd be something cool even on this show to like bring an underground guy on, because I'd like just basic things. I would like to hear just I don't know, basically how you do it. I could definitely see the perks of it, but yeah, I don't know. I guess being a surface guy, I'm always thinking just the perks of surface are better. So,
Yeah, there's a little more to it, right? I mean, it's yeah.
yeah, maybe we'll get the right person on here and I'll just be rethinking my life. Like, you know what? Maybe I should be working underground.
You'll be drilling underground here within a year. Right?
Yeah, I'll be helping because I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
hey?
yeah, I guess I could say like where I started too. So my whole career has been surface, other than like maybe if it's even 3 weeks underground. But yeah, I worked. It was right after I graduated high school. So graduated, and the whole time I was in school, I just never thought about what I would ever have to do once I graduated. You know, like you're sitting at home and mom's like making you breakfast and stuff like that. And you don't have to pay rent or anything.
Yeah.
Like I was just living in La La Land even through high school. And then when I graduated, there was this thing back in Manitoba. Like, I don't know if you've been to Country Fest at all in Dauphin, but
no, I buddies went there. Yeah.
Yeah. So graduated, went to Country Fest, party and all this stuff. And then when I got out, that's only like a week later, my stepdad's just like, hey, we're going to work. And I knew what he did, but I found like the older guys, they never, at least with kids around, never talked about what drilling was. So I knew he was a diamond driller. That's it. He's like, yeah, we're going to work. And we ended up flew up to Yellowknife, and I'd never even been on a plane before. So it's like this little tiny plane out of Dauphin, Manitoba to Winnipeg. I think we ended up flying to Edmonton, flew up to Yellowknife. Can't remember if we hung around there. I think we hung around a couple days. That's actually why I wore this shirt too, the Harley shirt. So I was up in Yellowknife just a couple weeks ago. And my stepdad took me there when it was like still down in the basement on
they moved it there now.
Yeah. So he took me there, and we had some family up there too, so I got to visit. So even during the trip, I was kind of like just feeling it out. Like now I'm visiting some family up there, seeing these bars and different town and whatnot. And then next thing we flew out to like a lot of guys start at little bush camps, but I ended up going to a Caddy diamond mine. So what we were going to do is do a fly program like out of there. And right off the hop, like we got to the mine site. It's a huge place. I still had no idea why we were even there or what they do at that place. So we ended up having this small, what was it? A fly 17, like a Boyle 17 drill.
Yeah. Jammer. Yeah.
So this thing, it wasn't even on site yet. It took a couple days. Apparently they had to find it. Like it was just left out in the tundra somewhere. So they had to find this drill and bring it to the job. So we were just like pissing around there. and this was with Major. So they had another LF90 on site. So when our drill showed up in pieces in the landing, we ended up going to this LF90, and I'm like looking around, getting a better idea of like what we're even doing, like what drilling is. And then we go back to the laydown, and I'm looking at, and this is like LF90 with like 20-foot rod sloop. They got a core shack off the side of it, a big
nice
generator.
machine.
Yeah, like super nice setup. It's down in this one pit. And now we go back to our laydown. I'm like looking at all this shit there. Like it's a gear jammer, right? A fly drill. And I remember asking my stepdad, I'm like, how does this turn into what we just saw? And he's just looks at me like shaking his head, like almost in disappointment that I don't just know what we're doing. But he's like, no, we're doing a whole different program here. So, anyways, we ended up flying that drill out to some little camp out of there. We stayed pretty much like a bush camp, but you know how mine site bush camps are a little nicer, like new tents and all that stuff. But so I ended up working that job. And then, like you mentioned, payday ended up coming, and I was waiting to go to college. So I was on a waiting list, and I think I worked one hitch, a 6-week hitch, and then the college ended up calling my mom and told my stepdad that Shawn got into school for September. And he came and told me, and he's like, oh, so we can get you out of here in like a couple days, and like whenever we can get a new guy. And I had my paycheck now, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll stick it out for another year. And he was so pissed off. And I couldn't understand why. I thought he was like going to be so proud. Oh, Shawn sticking it out. But like, little did I know, he just wanted something better for me. Like just didn't want me to have to work so hard. But I don't know.
That's awesome. And here you are still, hey?
Yeah, it's so wild. But I guess too, when I was leaving, I think I was telling you in person there when we were kind of talking about some of the stuff. When I left the first time, it's my first time leaving home, and my mom and my grandma like were just crying when we left in the morning to go hop on the plane. And I always thought, they're just because they're missing me. It's the first time I'm leaving. And then I just thought later on, like, I wonder if my mom was crying because she knew I was going to be a diamond driller.
Yeah, probably. That's guaranteed. There goes his life. Right?
But and then after that, pretty much like everybody else, just made the rounds. Like worked for a lot of the bigger companies, and then a lot of the small ones just trying to keep busy chasing that work. So I think I've probably worked for like 15, 16 companies by now, which is like pretty wild to think about it. I know if I saw that on a resume now, I'd be like, oh, I don't know. Or maybe in any other industry.
Yeah. Everyone's a driller now, eh?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's crazy what like I remember like the first few months helping there, and the guys like, what am I doing? But about 6 months to a year, you don't even think about it going home. Like it just comes to you, and you just go to work and do your tour and go home, right?
Yeah, that going away, it's honestly, it wasn't hard on me at all.
No, it's not. You know what I mean? Like that just there's days a guy thinks about it when he's out there years ago about what the hell am I doing here? But I mean, it doesn't last very long, and it passes, and then you just get so used to diamond drilling, that's all you think about, and that's all you talk about. Right? It's just your life. I mean, you look in our phones, Shawn. There's probably 98% of the contacts have to do with diamond drilling. Right?
Yeah,
I don't mind you. You know,
or you try to like go through your camera roll to find like a photo of, show someone your house back home.
Yeah.
Good luck.
There's one of the wife and kids, about 40 pictures in there. It's going down the drills there.
Yeah, it's like, if you want to see a starter from a Cummins or something, I can get to that one like instantly. But so how many years are you into this industry?
This will be going on 15, Shawn. 15
Okay.
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
This would be the 15th this new year.
Yeah. There's always that time. Like I think I'm already, it's like 17 or 18 years or something for me now.
Yeah, almost 2
And I have
decades.
my little breaks. Like I did work, I wouldn't call it a break, but I worked on the oil rigs for like 2 years as well. And that was just like, I mean, there's no drilling or diamond drilling jobs. So like, what do? You just go on Google and search drilling. Like I know everyone's been there. That's where you're like contemplate like a career change when you can't find anything. But yeah, I was lucky. A buddy of mine got on an oil rigging company, so brought me out there. So I spent 2 years doing that, and then I did some college as well. I did a little bit there in Brandon, Manitoba. So, but yeah, other than that, it's been just straight like busy years for the most part of it too. Like when a guy says like 15 or 17, it's like pretty much that long you've been working.
Yeah, exactly. Are like there's you know what I mean? Like same with me, Shawn. I mean it's not 14, 15 years of just working the drills during the summer or something. I do it all year round as well, right? Like I mean, a lot of guys this day and age they say, oh yeah, well I got 6 years on the drills. Well, you only work a month each year, so you got 6 months is what you got.
Yeah,
right?
I found that up here when I first moved to the Yukon. Like back home in Manitoba, it's like, how many years have you worked? A year, 365 days. Like, and if you work one hitch out of that year, I would just scratch that year right off myself. But moving up here, I was like moved up doing a different position. So I was hiring people and checking resumes, and I'd ask them, well, how long have you worked? And I kept hearing like, yeah, I've been working 3 seasons, 4 seasons.
That's how they are.
Like, yes. And since I'm new up here, I didn't really want to like ask what that was, but I'm like, what, seasons of the year? Like you work one full year, that's 4 seasons, or how does this go? And then after a while, like those guys who were saying seasons, I realized they're inexperienced is why they're saying that. And I mean, no, you gotta have like the full years. But yeah, that was kind of an eye opener. But I guess it's that whole thing, like a guy's trying to make himself sound like he's been around longer. So I could see where they're coming from. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Like it does sound like you've been there and back about a dozen times, but I mean, it's the same as when guys, you know, like now in this day and age, I don't know when you started out, Shawn, if how long you helped for, but I mean, when I started out, there was no, okay, you're going drilling. You know, I mean, I dumped tubes for 6 years, slave labor, right? Like get down in the trenches.
You don't get down in the trenches on that side of the drill.
Get down in the trenches and do your job. And don't get me wrong, I loved it, but then it comes a point in your life you start getting drillers. Like I'm 29 there, and I started drilling, and then you see drillers that are 20s, 21, and then you're like, it's time for me to do something different here, right? Like move up a little bit.
But I think for like for me, I think I had helped for, I'll just call it like 3 years, and then I ended up drilling like a little bit and knew nothing. And this is kind of the weird thing. Like a lot of guys I worked with, like they helped, but they always wanted to be the driller. So when I was coming up, I had no plan on ever even touching those controls. I just didn't want to. And you get a helping paycheck, and even now, like there's nothing wrong with a helper paycheck.
No, and you work hard, and it's good. It's you feel good about it, right?
Yeah, I mean you're fit, you're working long hours, you got all this cash, and like guys always say no responsibility, but obviously helpers have good helpers have a lot of responsibility.
A lot.
And
absolutely.
You know, once you learn that helping job, you're kind of laughing. You're like, as long as I work, I won the lottery here. I got good paychecks coming, no responsibility, whatever. But I had worked those 3 years. I guess because a lot of my buddies and family were drillers, so that's where you start like comparing yourself. Like a couple guys start drilling, and like, oh yeah, I'm just the helper. And so I ended
Yeah,
up
that's
getting a
right.
crack at drilling and it was not even a full hitch. It's like a couple weeks just filling in for some guy who got hurt. And I don't know, there wasn't a whole lot of work either. So I ended up like just still helping, good helper, working all the time, or at least in my mind, I was a good helper. But yeah, I went back, and that was during like I guess during the recession in like '09. So it was
Yeah.
super slow, but I did help for the whole time, which was good. I never really skipped a beat during that, so still made good money. And then I ended up now I'm really working with some drillers where I'm just shaking my head like, why the hell am I helping this guy? And then
Well,
I
that's
kind of
what I
made it a
mean.
mission, like I'm
Yeah.
gonna move up here. So
Yeah.
I'd say like I just call it like 4 years I was helping for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is a pretty good amount, but I know some guys
It's,
who go earlier. But
yeah. Well, they nowadays, Sean, they go, they they say that, like I said, I was saying before, they say they got 2 years of helping, but you only work 2 months each of them years. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good drillers that I've met that only help for 4 months, and
yeah,
they're awesome, right? They just had it figured out. It's in their blood, right?
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot to learn, right?
Yeah, that's always like it's been crazy to me when I guess if you have that mentality that like, hey, I want to drill, you could probably learn it pretty quick. But for someone like
Yeah.
me, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna write nicer on my core boxes here
Yeah.
and like spend my time learning that to like how
Yeah.
to where to
Yeah.
keep all my stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, actually a funny one when I was still helping right at the end of it, where I think even the drillers were kind of looking at me like, oh, this guy's ready to probably make that leap. Um, one guy, so we're on a gear jammer, like we're usually on gear jammers for at least the first few years, other than that LF90 I ended up working on. But
Yeah.
anyways, I'm dumping the tube or whatever, finish my stuff early, and then this driller is like, "Hey, come over here." And it's loud in there, right? So he's talking to me. He basically wants me to try run the controls. I think we'd blocked or whatever, and he wanted me to just to pull back and work the winch on it or work the hoist. So I'm like, he's talking. I can't even understand him, and I'm just like, "Oh yeah, yeah," saying yes. And then he just goes like this, like gives me the levers now. So like pull the clutch, and I don't know how to use this thing because I couldn't hear him right. Here he was telling me what to do, and I'm just like, I don't know. I pull the clutch, end up like tightening the cable,
Yeah.
open the chuck, and now I'm just bouncing. I'm like, he
Yeah.
can tell I get
Yeah.
no clue what the hell I'm doing. Like I'm bailing
Yeah.
core out
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just supposed to pull back like 8 feet. But it was pretty short lived where he just like slammed the brake on and he's like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So that was the first time I ever touched the controls. But yeah, after that, I guess it just became like a mission because not that you're like, oh, I'm stuck doing this job forever, but like you found a good paying career. Even if you hate it, you spend that much time doing it that you're going to get into it. And
Yeah.
it's like
Exactly.
a love hate thing for sure, I would say. But
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like yeah, guy. I mean, like I said, either you come onto the drill, Sean, and either you like it or you don't like it. You can tell as soon as you meet some diamond drillers. If they're diamond drillers, or they're just here for a paycheck, right? What it comes down to. I mean, there's you can tell right away. But so guys like us, it's just this is it. There are
yeah,
many more
I
guys
find
out
those
there.
like everyone's here for a paycheck, but like honestly, when I went to work the first time, I wasn't. I was there because my stepdad told me like you're coming. So
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if I want to have a roof over my head, I guess I got to work for it now. And
Yeah.
but yeah, like I do find now, especially being in like a position where you hire guys, or even if you get a friend on or something like that, if they're there just for that paycheck and that's it, they're not expecting like the crazy amount of work that it takes to, especially when you're green, to like, because I don't know, to at least be somewhat competent, like you need at least a week to just learn the like just the
Yeah.
process of it. And that I found that was a super tough time for me, but
Yeah.
I just stuck it out. I felt like I had no choice. Like
Yeah.
I quit.
It's a lot to take in. It is absolutely. I lucked out because I went for that little 2 weeks when I was 16. Then I went to training in Ontario with Bort to the school for 2 weeks, right? But like
Okay.
I remember they pulled this back end out, this underground back end. They pulled it out and they took it all apart and they said, "Put it back together." What is this thing? You know what I mean? Right? I seen this
Okay.
thing for 2 weeks. Half the 2 weeks I was at work there, they're doing casing, so you didn't even really see it. But so I lucked out, went to school, but it's a lot for a green guy, just to be starting out. Like, it's definitely a lot to take in.
Do
Right?
you like, especially where you are now? Do you think? And I'm sure some companies I've heard of it. They do this training still, but like, do you think that's still the way to go? Like, if you had a choice, could you put everyone through a schooling like that? Would you do it or?
I mean, I think it definitely set a guy up for vice versa driller training him and walking him through everything. What's nowadays, a lot of guys, I think a lot of guys, the issues these days is guys don't even want to show a guy. They'd rather sit and watch him battle doing something instead of getting out of their chair and showing them. So yeah, I think it would be definitely a good idea to have some kind of more training. I mean, you have your common core, but that comes later on. And does a guy actually even sit down and really do that with anyone, right?
Yeah,
You
like,
kind of just sign some papers and be done with it.
yeah,
But
really. Like, and I've always been curious about that training. I know like Major had something set up. I know like High Tech does some stuff like that. Um, Even companies I've worked for, we've done that, but it was more like on the job training. Like, we did have a drill set up. We were drilling some holes, but we would like double up the helpers, and you slowly give the new guy a little more stuff to do. And I thought it was a really great idea, at least for the helpers, because it's super dangerous too, right? Like, don't put your fingers here and um, whatnot. But then the first time I came up here, I had to go on a training drill as a driller, and like, whatever. I just wanted the job. I didn't care. But I did think it was funny that I was going out. Like, you got all these years under your belt now, and someone's like, "Hey, like, prove that you could even run the machine," because they didn't care what you got. But I don't know. I guess, and I've heard that too. I know. I think it was Major again. They had if you were a driller who hadn't worked there for a long time or you're new, you did have to go to whatever schooling they had set up, which was funny because a few of my relatives, they had worked for that company like a long time before, like they took their break and then came back. So it's kind of funny. It's like, hey, prove to us again that you can still work for us.
Yeah.
But I can see where they're coming from. I mean, guys change over a long period of time as well, right? You want to make sure they're on the ball. But I know a lot of companies want to do that testing and training and whatnot, but then it just turns down to, or it comes out to, do they have the time? Do they have the money to do it? And do you really want a guy that you have to like baby along the way, or do you want the guy you can like throw on a drill and he just works his bag off and figures it out? And
exactly. I mean, and then it's like I said, it's what it comes down to is a driller. Is he gonna be with someone good? Is the guy just gonna tell him how to take a tube or a back end off and dump a tube and that's it, right?
yeah,
I mean,
I found that it's almost like guys are, and it's not just drilling that's a problem, but it's like guys trying to protect their job from the next generation of guys coming up.
yeah, and I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that one bit, Sean. I think it's good. I mean, I love seeing the 20-year-olds get out there and start drilling and cut a 100-meter shift, right? Especially after they helped you. There's no better feeling than seeing your helper get out there and pound down 100 meters of shift, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like, you're gonna, I don't know, my same as you get some pride when you spend some time like training a guy, not being a dick to him, or being a dick when you have to, but overall, like, you're just trying to better the guy and keep him around. But I never understood that whole protecting your spot, because even look at now the range of ages that you work with, like, you got 18-year-olds and you got like 68-year-olds. So what were them guys really trying to protect back.
There's
I shouldn't even
nothing.
say back then because I know it happens even now. But
Yeah.
just
There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing to protect. I mean, if you're good, you're good, and if you're, you know what I mean, if you're good, you got nothing to worry about,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, the old guys nowadays, like they're still the best. They're, you know what I mean? That's the guys I still. If there's an old guy in the room and he has something to say, that's who I listen to.
Yeah,
Right?
at least
You know what
give
I mean?
them like I'm gonna take that advice over somebody else. But
Yeah, and it's exactly like it's just good, genuine. You know, and there's probably other ways. There's probably other ways than old timers used to do things that are different now, but their way works. That's the way
yeah.
things are done. They were done.
Like
Right?
actually yesterday I was listening to this podcast on Spotify. I forget the name of it, but it's like a oil field, or I don't know if it's really just oil field, but like maybe more like directional drilling and water well drilling and stuff like that. I think it's like
Yeah.
driller cast or something like that. But this one guy was talking about that, like every driller you talk to is the best driller in the world. And it doesn't matter. Like I bet every driller, no matter what kind of drill you're running, what you're looking for, that driller is the best. So heard it for years. And then there's another guy on there who brought up that point, but he was saying he said every driller is the best because every driller is going to have a different way to do this particular job, and everyone's goal is to finish the hole or whatever they're doing. So every driller is the best because in that scenario that they pick, they're going to be the best at executing it. And then the next guy who's going to do it a little different, he's the best because that's his plan he made. And I was like, it kind of makes sense. But still, drillers, like, I mean, you get a room full of drillers. I'm sure we all sound like idiots talking about like what we've done, how good we are. But I did like the way the guy broke it down because it was a little more like logical way of saying, everyone's the best.
Yeah, a little bit less ego there when saying it. Exactly. But that's right, Shawn. It's absolutely right. Like there's I get helpers that help the other guys. I'm sure you did too. That helped other good drillers for years. But as soon as they come on, I say this: it's Brent's way. It's not this guy's way. It's not that guy's way. It's Brent's way, and that's how I do things, and that's what works for me, and that's how we do it, right?
Yeah, like you're running your own show, and that's like I've tried to listen to. Not that I've never listened to tips. Obviously, I have, but you try to do something the way someone else described it, and like you just mess things right up, and you're like, I should have just went with my gut and did
absolutely
my own.
all the time, and you're like, you know better. You tell yourself you know better. I should not listen, right?
Yeah,
that's so true. Yeah,
you always have, at least myself, I've always had that battle in my head about I don't know if it'd be like procrastination almost, but let's say you get out there, you got a couple splices in the wire line, and you're looking at them going down, but the rock's good, so you got a good shift going, and you're looking at them like, obviously I'm not going to put one down that I know is going to snap, but I'm like, looks a little rough. I should probably change that, but oh no,
next
meters
one.
are coming in. Next one, I'll get her. Oh, I forgot to get her next one.
Yeah,
and then you could send those shitty splices down all shift, no problem, until you focus on one and you're like, oh fuck, I should change that. And when you don't do it, like that's the one that's gonna bust.
absolutely.
And I always find that with like, you got a drip in a hose, or I don't know, just something is deteriorating. If you don't address it now, like it just bites you in the ass later. And it's always like this weird battle.
It's the law of attraction. Absolutely. 100%, man. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. And then some things just fuck up on you and you're like, just like, no, I'm stupid. I should have saw that. But it's always the ones that you focus on and they get you.
Yeah. No, it's funny how it works, but
yeah. So I don't know. I guess down the road, at least with the podcast, I'm always wondering I've been thinking about like which people to get and who's going to make like an interesting story.
I got a couple, Shawn. I'll text you them. We'll talk about it. You got lots. I imagine you have a good you're the guy.
Yeah.
Right.
And quite a few people all over the place. So, and we had talked about this before, but like the goal on here, we both work for different companies. We've worked together. Whoever we bring on, it's definitely not to like push the company I work for or the one you're working for.
No, it's just to talk about it, right? Talk drilling. Right?
Yeah. And we're not trying to shit on any other companies.
Absolutely not.
Even like product suppliers and stuff like that. At the end of the day, everybody who's in this industry is they're trying to do their best in whatever field they're into. So I don't want this to like turn into that, but a guy gets pretty fired up over some story, and then there's like this bit that, that thing's a piece of shit, like that kind of stuff. We'll try to skip out on here. So I think it's going to be a lot easier to interview like even people who are supplying parts and stuff like that, guys running projects and whatnot. But then you're just going to get like just that driller, that helper who's like, we might get a helper on here who's like, oh, I fucking hate rigid pipe wrenches.
Yeah, exactly. No, totally.
Yeah. So we'll kind of play that one by ear about who we're getting.
We'll have a brief little talk to him probably prior and give him the
it's probably a good thing. Like if this thing gets any traction, people even watching it now, like if you are planning on being on it one day, like maybe tone her down when it comes to the personal opinions, or even like, I don't want to call out like individuals and stuff either. But yeah, we'll keep it as like professional as we can, but just casual, I think, because we were talking about this, like listening to podcasts at the drill and stuff like that. And music's a no at the drill and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, at a point in my career, that's like, and when you brought up doing this, why I was so pumped about it, because like I remember sitting at the drill hating my job at one point, just like, and it had nothing to do with the actual work. It was just, I was so sick of doing the same thing every day. And I ended up just started listening to podcasts. Like you start off listening to some music, you get bored of that. And that's when Spotify getting really big. Start listening to these podcasts, and it just like changed my whole thing. Like I probably squeaked another 2 years out of drilling for sure.
Absolutely.
Like keeping my sanity.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. I think if we keep it really casual, I'd like to think that guys will be sitting at the drill listening to this too. And hopefully when we get into like different stories, and it would be cool to get real technical on some stuff too. But you never know, like that guy could be like struggling in sand or something right now and happens to be listening to a podcast, and maybe we actually say something smart on here and help that guy, or
it comes in with an 80 meter shift.
Hey? Yeah, and then we'll take all the credit for it too.
And that's a bonus partner.
Yeah, like a real foreman does too, like
exactly.
You call that office and you're like, oh man, Shawn got 100 last night. It's like, good thing I was there to support him.
I showed him some things. Hey, I showed him a few things.
Yeah. That's one thing too. I've noticed the difference between like and even myself, like the old school driller versus the new one. Now when these guys cut a good shift, and like, I don't know, there's all sorts of good shifts, but let's just say over 100 meters, you get 120 some meters, which is a killer shift. The driller always came in like, everyone's like, oh, great job, man. And no one ever acknowledged the helper. And even when I was coming up, I like to think I told my helper like, hey, good shift today, but maybe I didn't. It's always like about me, like I'm the best.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But you don't want to. Obviously, you can't cut 100 meter shift for no helper. You can't cut 100 meter shift for no driller. But you don't want to push the buttons and tell them you did an awesome job, man. You got to keep it kind of simple. Say you did an all right job.
Yeah,
right? Then it goes to their head, eh? Right?
Yeah.
Deep down, they did an awesome job.
It's like the newer drillers, I do find they're more likely to give that like pat on the back, or I've even
Yeah.
seen on like on those Facebook groups too, people will be like the drillers like, it's all my helper, and which it's not, it's both of you guys, but
Yeah.
it's cool that people are at least acknowledging that effort on both ends, because I think the helpers just got shit on for like
Years.
forever.
Years, like not even sitting in the front seat. When I started, you helpers in the back seat, right?
Yeah.
Helpers in the back seat. Like what do you mean the back seat, man? Like, why do I gotta get back there? I'm sitting up front here already. Like,
Yeah,
so yeah,
exactly.
they definitely got shit on for years. I mean, it's a little bit different nowadays, but
Yeah.
I gotta go to work here, Shawn. I gotta go drill, and we'll touch base again here soon, partner.
Yeah, we'll talk
Awesome.
back and forth, and hopefully we've
Yeah.
actually recorded some audio here, and
Just
we'll
forgot.
have
Yeah.
something to show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's it for episode 1.
Okay, brother. We'll talk again.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Yeah,
All
buddy.
right.
Okay.
I'm a diamond drilling roughneck working nowhere near a town. When I get out, I'll scream and shout hell by the bar around. It diamond drilling roughneck working all year long. It's time to raise your glasses to the diamond drilling.